Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. The market is a little bit mixed heading into today. We had a pretty rough jobs report that we will be covering in a couple minutes, but looking at the SPY, we see a lot of, I guess you could say, uncertainty. We see some upwards movement, some downwards movement, but overall, just nothing too major. The main thing I'm looking at heading into today are these China stocks like BABA, maybe Baidu, Queb. Those types of stocks have a ton of momentum, even NEO, and they've been popping off for like the past day or two, and they've really been beaten down a lot over the past couple months. So definitely keep these ones on your radar. They have a lot of momentum.
Yeah, they do. And that news where Biden's actually going to be talking to the leader of China over a virtual meeting is actually really good news. And I think that really shows that the tensions with China might be getting better in the short term. So I know that they're supposed to talk before the end of this year, and that should honestly bring some good movement out of these stocks. And I love how NEO's moving up with this news too. And this makes me feel like the NEO could have honestly been running up with Tesla this whole time. But if China hadn't came in and came out with all these bad regulations and stuff, then I think NEO would be doing pretty well right now. But unfortunately, they just got beaten down with the rest of those Chinese stocks.
Gotcha. So, welcome everyone to the stream. Welcome Hunter, Jamie, Alex, Mike, Vicky, George, and Michael. Thank you guys so much for joining. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you're watching. Tom, I know Tesla has a lot of momentum, and I know that they had their an event yesterday. How's it looking heading into today?
Yeah, it actually looks pretty good today so far. Pre-market went pretty well and Tesla popped back up, but with that shareholder meeting yesterday, they did actually end up moving back to the downside, and there wasn't any particularly bad news that came out of this. I know Tesla's moving their headquarters from California to Texas. I don't know if that's maybe why, but either way, it looks like Tesla was doing pretty well so far this morning. Now there is some red coming in here right at market open, unfortunately, but pre-market was going pretty well. And if we can pop back up above 800, I think it would be great for Tesla. But if we see another rejection at 800, I'm going to get pretty worried again and maybe look at Tesla back to the downside. But I'd love to see him pop back up above 800. I just, there's a lot of up and down movement with that event yesterday, and it didn't really garner the support I think the people were hoping for.
Check out Palantir. They're having a decent opening. The Palantir, they obviously exploded up the other day, but had a horrible drop back down. But they're definitely holding their ground, which is a good thing to see. And they're getting really close to that $24 resistance.
Yeah, they are. And I'm wondering how much further they might be able to run up today. Like you said, if they could break out from here, I could see a pretty good move, maybe up to like $25 or maybe 24.50. But I really like the setup here with Palantir, and it's actually holding its ground very well. Like you said, I'm really glad that whenever it started coming back down after that big drop, I'm glad it did not fall below that 23 support. That would have been a pretty bad thing to see.
Alrighty, so I just want to talk about this jobs report really quickly. So when we look at the SPY, we saw it's literally all over the place, and the jobs report was pretty bad. So non-farm payrolls increased by 194,000 in September when they were expected to increase by 500,000. So perfect. Tom has it pulled up right there. We can see it's a pretty big miss. So the unemployment rate dropped to 4.8%, which is, better than the 5.1% expectation. But, that's just a really big miss on like the non-farm payrolls. And, the market didn't really know how to interpret that. So I just figured I'd show this to everyone because I know that it's not like crazy like hype news. But yeah, definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty bad. And one thing is that it definitely affected the SPY this morning. If we go to the 1 minute chart, you can see the SPY here almost looks like a heartbeat monitor. I mean, it just went up and down, got really volatile there for that 30 minutes. And right now we're actually seeing some green at open. So hopefully the SPY can get back up there even with this bad news. That would show the strength maybe coming back into the market. But man, with a jobs report that bad where you're expecting 500,000 jobs and you only got into the 100,000s, that's honestly a pretty bad miss. And I would expect that to hurt the markets a little bit. And so far, the markets are pretty unchanged from this news. So I don't know. I could see the market maybe going down off of the news, but, it's actually really holding its ground pretty well, given what we're seeing.
Alrighty, so we have Spacely saying top of the morning. Welcome, Spacely. Thanks for joining. Welcome, Gabriel. And then we have Michael saying, do you guys have any DD on BFI? It's been getting killed, not sure why. So BFI, this is BurgerFi. Looking at their chart, they have been getting destroyed. And while I haven't been following this company too much, I know that like the labor shortage can definitely be eating into some of their profits. At the same time, just costs are rising across the board for everything. So like, their food costs, everything, energy, all that. So that would be my first thought, but keep in mind, I have not been following this company.
Yeah, and you're right. That labor shortage is starting to really take a hold on some of these companies. And I know I just saw a report yesterday, Mike, that Raising Cane's is actually making their corporate employees go work at the fast food restaurants because they're that low on labor right now. And if it's getting that bad, I mean, man, I'm not surprised to see this stock down. And unfortunately, that labor market is just getting pretty terrible in the short term. So we'll have to see if that can kind of get better. And this jobs report's definitely not good for the labor market overall either.
Very interesting. So, for sure. And then Vicky said, despite bad job growth, unemployment fell to 4.8%. So, yeah, definitely. So, that is good to see. But, the huge miss on the job growth does suck. So, either way, the market's kind of mixed off of that news. Tom, looking at the SPY right now, I see that, like, we are literally, like, dead flat. It's up 0.01%, and now we're coming down. But what are your thoughts on the market so far heading into today?
Yeah, heading into today, I thought it was looking pretty good before that jobs report came out. Once that came out, it just gave me some negative news about the market that would have made me think that it would go down. But honestly, I thought that there was a lot of strength heading into today. And if this jobs report would have went a little bit better, I feel like that we could have had a pretty nice pop up. But man, I mean, that's just a pretty bad jobs report. Whenever you're missing by that much, it's never good. And like Vicky said, the unemployment numbers weren't terrible. So maybe the market can hold where it is, but just looking at it, like you said, it's really up and down. It's at pretty much even today. And who knows, it might stay there for the remainder of the day. I have no idea. This is a very mixed day. And I would lean to the downside though, just given that jobs report, but it's very mixed. And I would say if we can fall below this 438 support, I think that we could have a pretty bad move to the downside, but definitely make it break that before we kind of get in anything.
All right, so we have Hunter saying the jobs report is abysmal every time pretty much. And then Iranical said bad news is good news. So it's definitely felt that way over the past year or so. But either way, market's still flat. I think the way to go today will be, really just following the momentum. Like yesterday, we saw China stocks explode up. There was a lot of money flowing into them. And as of today, yes, they're still up. Their BABA's up like 1.5%. So I think today's best move will be just following the money. And as of right now, there's not really any momentum with anything. But we'll definitely be covering that on the stream. And I think it is a pretty good time to dip by some of these stocks that are beaten down. I saw Corsair was running pretty well. They're up like 1% on the day, and I know they sold off a little bit at open, but hey, they're still up 1% on the day. Zoom's trying to pop up, NIO, and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're actually having pretty good days out of all those stocks, and it's really surprising for me to see CRSR have that pretty nice move up in pre-market. I thought that was actually a really nice move it had, all the way up to $27. That was a pretty nice 1-point pop there actually out of Corsair. And look at Corsair on the daily, it's actually still bouncing well off that support. Even if we end up coming down today a little bit, that support still looks pretty good in the longer term at $25. So I really like that. And then another thing that's kind of ripping again today, Mike, is crude oil. I mean, I don't know what's going on with this, but early on this morning, crude's kind of ripping back up towards that $80 a barrel mark. And they're actually at their high this week. And I don't know if they'll be able to break $80 a barrel or not, but if we do break $80 a barrel, you might be able to find some good momentum to the upside. And if we get rejected, you might be able to play some good moves to the downside with oil, maybe playing GUSH or GUSH or DRIP. That might be a good way to go. But, either way, oil's going to be pretty tough today. But just wanted to point it out because we're just seeing continued strength out of oil. And, man, these gas prices are not going any lower anytime soon, it doesn't seem. And the inflation just seems to keep staying around.
Yeah, I mean, $80 a barrel, Tom? What's going on? Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, man, we're getting back to those $100 a barrel days.
Oh gosh! All right, so crude oil's popping off. Exxon Mobil and like some of the oil stocks, they're not like exploding, but they're definitely trending up pretty well. So that's interesting. One stock that is kind of popping, or I don't want to say popping, but it's recovering pretty well. That would be Visa, so ticker symbol V. They've been struggling a lot over like the past 2 to 3 months, and they went from like 253 down to 220, and they're kind of holding their ground. So I'd be very curious to see if they could, break out above this 237 resistance. That's like the main level I'm watching. I know it is like $5 away.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of key levels here on Visa, Mike, and it actually is looking pretty good. Like you said, that 220 support down here, or the one around 215, honestly looks pretty good here for the long term. And I love the way that they're kind of moving on this daily chart. I think it looks pretty strong, and I love the way they're bouncing off supports. And if we can break that resistance you said over the next maybe day or two, I think we could see a pretty good move out of Visa. But I mean, wow, what a great move off that 220 support. This has honestly been a pretty good stock to watch. And I know that Visa, like you said, has been taking a pretty big turn to the downside lately. So it's glad to see them kind of getting that nice recovery up. And I know the banks have been doing pretty well lately. So hopefully Visa can follow along with them.
Alrighty, so we have Vicky saying the market is going to rally today as soon as investors realize that what matters today is the unemployment rate has gone down to 4.8%. Get ready for it. So we shall see. Looking across a couple different stocks, we're seeing DraftKings tank off, Palantir tank off, even the market sell off a little bit. So Vicky, I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for the market to pop back up. Despite holding its ground, like it's not tanking, like lots of mixed movement, Tom. Like I know you were just looking at Boeing, but we have some stocks like tanking off like Palantir, and I know that doesn't follow the market too much, but just so much mixed movement, and there's just like a real strong lack of momentum.
Yeah, there really is. And the only stocks that are really green on my watch list today are either BABA, a couple oil stocks, Visa, MasterCard, and then a couple of these stocks like BLNK, CHBT, CRSR. Besides that, a lot of these stocks are mostly unchanged. And, we're seeing a lot of the bigger players red, like NVIDIA, AMD, a lot of stocks like that. Unfortunately, Tesla is red today too at 788, which is never good to see. We can see Tesla actually had a pretty bad move to the downside at open, Mike. Wow. I mean, that was a pretty bad drop, actually. I cannot believe that Tesla had this terrible rejection again at $800. And I really hope that they don't keep going down in the short term after that shareholder meeting yesterday, because, man, I know a lot of people are hoping that meeting would really boost their stock up through $800.
Well, what about Palantir, Tom? Like they were looking pretty good right at open, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know if like if we're about to see a Hindenburg report or what, but it's tanking off. Let me look at the live news really quickly.
Man, I hope nothing came out with that Army deal from the other day, or I hope nothing weird came out with that. But man, it's really having a bad downturn. I don't know what's happening to these stocks, and it's happening to these growth stocks that generally get a lot of good momentum to the upside.
All right, so I just found it. So Palantir-backed EV maker is dubbed the new EV scam in town by short sellers. So that is the news. I'm going to look into this a little bit more, but I wouldn't expect this to make the stock tank like it is. Like they had that good news over the past couple weeks, and I don't know. Either way, they're tanking off, but I still like them for the long and medium term.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good thing to hear in the short term, especially after that deal just went through with the Army. This might really, damper that news and make it really out or take it out of the headlines almost. Like it's just a really weird situation. And I guess that's why their stock's down that much today. But hopefully they can end up holding this support around $23.40 or around $23 even, because if they can hold it, I think it would end up being pretty good. But wow, I mean, that's just a really big turnaround out of a really hyped up stock over the past week.
Gotcha. All right, Hunter said, did I not call this exact movement last night? He did. Actually, I was talking to Hunter and almost spot on, or basically spot on, but it sucks. Palantir. So looking at everything, Tom, it looks like Baba's up like 2%. It's not going down without a fight. I know that it had some sellers come in right at open, but we're starting to see some green come back in. What are the main levels on this one?
Yeah, I would really watch for Baba to bounce off of this 158 support, which it actually bounced off of a little bit today. that was the high of yesterday in the middle of the day, right around like 11:30 Central. And it looks like we're bouncing pretty well off of there so far today. So if 158 holds up, I could see this stock potentially recovering back pretty well. But I just, the main question is the SPY going to keep going down or up? And I don't know. This level might not end up holding up for tomorrow. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. But definitely look at 158, and then the upper resistance is right around like 161.
Good stuff. So that's great to see. I'm really rooting for these stocks to pop up for the short term. I think it's a pretty good setup overall. And I see you looking at BLNK. This one's been struggling a lot for the past, I don't know, couple of months. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, it is having a pretty nice day today, even though the market's kind of all over the place. So that's good news, at least for right now. I know BLNK is having a pretty good day. CHPT's in the green. Enphase is green as well. So it seems like that these type of or this sector is just really popping off today. And I'm glad to see it so far. And they're not green by a lot, but compared to a lot of other stocks in the market, they're moving pretty well comparatively. So overall, really watch these type of growth stocks. They've all been right around support lately too. Like Enphase has had a pretty big bounce off of their like 145 support. We've had CRSR down at support. BLNK has been at support for a long time too. So a lot of these stocks are just at awesome levels right now. And, we've been talking about them for a long time, but, they are green again today whenever, a lot of the market's just kind of red.
And then what are you thinking about this plug action? They're like one of the top stocks on my scanner right now. They're up like 3.5% on the day, and they have some pretty good momentum and some pretty good price action.
Yeah, definitely. They should have actually been on my watch list too. But man, sometimes my watch list just gets it gets all jumbled up. But yeah, I mean, Plug's not doing very well actually, Mike. That's a nice breakout. Look at this. They're actually going to be breaking $27. And you're right. This actually looks like the best setup that we've actually seen today. And look at this on the 90-day, 15-minute. We're actually getting right up to this resistance at 27. And it looks like we might be breaking that right now.
Alrighty, so we have Alex saying, is AFRM going to be the next UPST? Honestly, I wouldn't doubt it, but those scenarios are pretty rare. But now that you mention it, like the setup does look kind of similar, and it does have a lot of good news. So let me actually look into the options chain really quickly. Like if we go to, let's say we picked like the November 19th expiration, and we picked the, I don't know, maybe like the 155 and 170 call debit spread. Let me see how much that is costing. So 155 and 170 call debit spread. So it costs around $350 for that. The max profit would be like $1,200 or something along those lines. So I think the best way to play it, if you wanted to play this setup, would be a call debit spread, and that would be because implied volatility is getting pretty high right now. So you don't want to buy naked calls. And at the same time, I mean, I guess you could short some put options, but that's only if you'd be comfortable holding the stock. If you bought like a call debit spread, it'd be like a relatively low risk, high potential reward setup. So yeah, definitely keep it in mind.
Yeah, I actually really like this stock for the longer term. I think they're a pretty good company, and they're kind of like a credit card company in a way. So I feel like they could end up doing really good in the long term. But in the short term, I will say they're getting really close to these resistances around 140 and then like 146 to 147. So be a little careful over the next few days. But man, there's a lot of momentum, and I would not be surprised to see it keep running with all these good deals that they keep coming out with. I know they had Amazon, Walmart, and I believe Target all within like a couple weeks of each other.
Yeah, so they're definitely popping off. They have a lot of good news to kind of back up this explosion in price, which is great to see. Tom, looking at Facebook, I know we had a couple people in Discord mentioning Facebook. It's been struggling a lot lately, and it is at some pretty key support levels. What do you think?
Yeah, it is actually. I see a pretty good support here right around 328, and it looks like they've been holding that pretty well so far this morning, and it's getting a pretty nice pop back up. I could honestly see Facebook maybe getting a little bit of a bounce back up in the short term. I still feel like they could have some moves back down, but honestly, recently with all these whistleblower accusations and everything, I'm surprised that they haven't been going a little bit lower than they have. But either way, they're holding their ground well at these supports, and if we start to see some good pops back to the upside, especially if we could break out above like 337.50. I think we could see a really nice move back up. But, just be really careful with this one. There's all these weird catalysts coming out with them. So, it's a little bit risky because we just kind of risk maybe like a whistleblower coming out, or, maybe Congress coming out with some regulation, or maybe talking about it. That would obviously be some pretty bad news.
Alrighty, Moderna's tanking off. I don't know if you saw that one. I've been watching this one for a while. They are really selling off. And Tom, it looks like we're going to break below that 300 support.
Yeah, we might. And we actually, we broke below it yesterday, and then we popped right back up above it at market open. And, you're right. We're getting right back down there. And if we break below it again today, man, I could see a pretty steep sell-off coming in. I don't know about you, but, this stock has been sitting here around 300 for a few days now, and it's just been failing to get that momentum back to the upside. So if we see a good break, definitely be ready for a decent play because it could really work out.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm with you for sure. I think it has a lot more room to fall. You just got to be careful of the pretty expensive options on it. So I think put debit spreads or maybe call credit spreads would be the way to go. Netflix is still moving. I don't know if you saw that one. They're getting really, really close to a new all-time high.
Yeah, they are actually. They're getting that momentum right back. I know yesterday they posted that new high around 646. They almost got to that 650 level, but wow, I mean, this is a pretty good thing here. And I'm looking at Netflix, and it looks like it's trying to pop above this 640 resistance, which it's actually doing right as I'm talking. So that looks like a pretty good move out of Netflix. I know that they've had a lot of support with that new show out, Mike. I know you've watched it, called Squid Games. I haven't watched it. I only watched one little episode, but I mean, man, it seems like a pretty good show, and people are really, honestly, like, this has given Netflix a lot of momentum, and people are really hyping up this show, and it seems like a really good thing in the short term. But, my only question is how long is Netflix going to run before it finally comes down? I'm definitely eyeing up this 650 resistance, and if we can break above 650, then I'll definitely be eyeing up 700 after that.
Here we go. So Netflix and AFRM are the two money-moving stocks today, you can say. Lots of momentum, lots of breaking out. GM's looking pretty good, too. I don't know if you saw that one. They're up like over 2%, and they are breaking out, and I like this setup.
Yeah, GM and Ford are really breaking out, actually. I cannot believe that these two stocks are still moving in sympathy with each other like this, and it's still having really nice moves back up. And I know lots of people were talking about buying that dip on General Motors, and I know a lot of people did, but man, I mean, imagine that opportunity there. That was a really good one. And I know that these stocks are supposed to be pretty good for the next few years, and man, that's just a crazy move. I cannot believe that they're back up. But they did come out with that great news where they said their revenue is set to double by 2030. Now I know that's 10 or 9 years away now, but still, I mean, that's good news that their revenue might double over the next 10 years.
All right, so we have Hunter saying or asking if Squid Game is a show, and he said he thought it was a video game when someone was talking about it yesterday at the gym. So yeah, it is a show. I think there's like 9 episodes or something like that. But basically, I don't want to spoil. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's a show where they just play like life or death like games. So like, that's
yeah, like
where
on the
you might
one
get
on the
little
one
bit
I saw.
confused. But honestly, like, I'm not a huge fan of like watching shows. Like I really don't watch any shows. But I will say this one was like, it was very like entertaining, and like you were always on the edge of your seat. And like what I really liked about it is like there aren't too many other shows or movies like it. So honestly, like try it out, watch like 3 or 4 episodes, and you'll probably finish it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, like Mike said, there's like lots of life and game stuff, or life and death stuff on there. And on the one I only saw one little video on Facebook, and they were playing like red light, green light, Mike. And it seemed like that they would run, and then as this cat would turn around, they all had to stop running. And if you moved after that cat saw you, it would like shoot you. So it was a pretty intense thing, and it definitely kept you on the edge of your seat. So I can see why a lot of people like it. It's almost like watching like a shark attack, or watching some of those like freaky videos on Facebook.
Yeah, crazy. Then Hunter said, "Count me in. I'd lose. Just get out of signals and systems." Gosh. Alex said, "Squid Game has been compared to be similar to the Hunger Games." So yeah, I can definitely see that. Like it is pretty similar in that sense. But I also think that there's definitely some pretty big differences. But overall, I like the show, and in my opinion, like it was just like very unique and it was pretty entertaining. And then we have Manny saying, I'm in WMB calls and don't know if it can go any higher. So WMB, let's take a look. WMB, this stock is up slightly. I'm not sure what expiration you have or what strike price, so it's hard to give you a solid answer without knowing that information. But looking at the chart, it's on a solid uptrend. IV is rising. I mean, honestly, I really haven't even been following this stock, but they are on a pretty solid uptrend. They do have resistance right around, what is that, Tom, like 28.50?
Yeah, it's actually right around 28.35, I guess. Let me go check the 4-hour chart. Yeah, it looks like 28.30 to 28.37 it looks like, but yeah, you could say like 28.50. It's really close, but either way, I mean, this stock is really getting close to these resistances, and like you said, it's going to be pretty hard, I think, for it to break that all-time high, but it definitely has potential to. It looks like there is some momentum here, so I could see it happening, but it's just a really hard stock to gauge right now. And I don't know what this company does exactly, but hey, they've been on a really good recovery. And if they break that all-time high, I could see them break out. But I would just say chances are, like statistically speaking, it probably won't break this.
All right. All right. So then we have Alex saying, "What do you do, Mike, if you don't watch shows?" So good question. I'm actually more of a YouTube guy. Like I don't really watch too much TV. I'm basically always on YouTube, which I guess is a good and bad thing. But YouTube, like it always like almost knows what you'd be interested in watching. And like anytime I go on like the YouTube homepage, there's at least one video that like I'm gonna click. So I just kind of get hooked because I'll click one video and then like I'll see like a recommended video that also looks really interesting and I'll watch that. And then the next thing I know, I'm watching YouTube for like 2 hours. So I don't know if anyone else has that or if it's just me.
I definitely do. I know that's how I kind of go sometimes. And, I'll be honest, YouTube is almost a lot better than a lot of these shows in a lot of cases. Because on YouTube, you can learn a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know about you, Mike, but most of the videos I'm watching are honestly like pretty educational. Like, I'm not just sitting there watching like, The Walking Dead or anything like that. I'm actually watching like how stuff is done, how stuff is made, different strategies in the market, different stuff like that. And like you said, it really knows almost what you want to watch. And it's just really interesting. And you're right, though. Like I honestly used to watch a lot of shows. And now that YouTube got a lot more integrated, I have been really on there over the past couple of years, a lot more than I used to.
Gotcha. All right. Hunter said, that's true. I'll watch a video about my homework, and then an hour later, I'm watching videos ranking the deadliest snakes. I feel that. For sure. Oh, my gosh. That's funny. All right. So, Tom, we have GM and AFRM still going to the upside. Baba is trying to pop up. They're up like 2.1%. GM is really the stock that's popping, though. Also, QS is rising a decent amount. Now, I'm not a fan of this stock for the long term, but they do have some good like short-term potential, and I'm kind of tempted to like buy like a YOLO call on this one. Like I said, like I'm not a huge fan of this company for the long term, but I don't know. I'm thinking about gambling on like an out-of-the-money call with it.
Yeah, this one's going to be pretty tough, but hey, at least they're bouncing off support well, and it looks like they're moving pretty decent. And if you get enough time, I mean, it could end up making for a pretty good play. Like if you could maybe get like a 25 strike or somewhere like that and get a lot of time, I think it could honestly work out pretty well. And it's bouncing off support pretty decently. And if we get a nice pop over the next couple of weeks, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at the December expiration 30 strike call. Costs around $154 right now. And the last time QS popped up in, what was that, like a couple weeks ago, like on September 24th, this same call option was at like $435. So, I don't know, I'm really tempted with this one, but I really don't like to play like speculative trades like this. Like I really don't like to gamble. So either way, it's on my radar, but we'll see what happens. I really do like this Corsair dip though. Corsair, Redfin, RUN, Boeing, awesome stocks at awesome levels.
Yeah, that honestly has a lot of potential too. Like Corsair's it is in a pretty decent setup of its own, and it's actually bouncing off support a little bit better than QS is. So yeah, I like that setup too. And even like Plug today is doing awesome. I know PLUG has just been running all morning, and they're right on support as well, looking pretty good. And it seems like a lot of these growth stocks are just really almost all at like very good levels right now, and they all seem like they want to try to maybe have a nice run for the next week or two. But as we've been seeing though, we've seen it time and time again. Like Plug had a few nice green days a while ago and then just consolidated and fell, and it happened again last week. And I'm wondering if that'll happen again this week. I'm waiting for these stocks to finally get that type of breakout that we've been waiting for. And Palantir has been a prime example. It goes up, it comes back down, goes up, comes back down, just fails to break its resistance. But once we finally get that breakout, I feel like it'll be really significant.
Alrighty, so we have Vicky saying, true that, Mike and Tom, hit the like button, guys. So yeah, if you guys like the streams, it would really, really help us out if you could hit the like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and Tom and I would greatly appreciate it. But Tom, we have BABA breaking out. So let's take a look at it. It is up almost 3% on the day, and it is going for that 161 resistance.
There we go. BABA coming in clutch. We needed this one to fly back up. I know that, we were definitely watching it this morning, and I was getting a little depressed as it was coming back down. But hey, it looks like it held that 158 support very well. We got that nice pop back up, just like we were looking for. And it just looks like a pretty good morning so far. So if we can go back up and break 161, that would be amazing. And I could possibly see it happening. There's been a lot of momentum in these stocks lately, and the way BABA went up yesterday, I mean, man, that was a lot of strength coming into the stock, and especially with like Charlie Munger saying he's buying these stocks and stuff on these dips. I think that's just awesome news, and hopefully more people really buy BABA up over the next couple of days.
There we go. All right, so let us know what stocks you're watching. We'll definitely take a look at them. Still though, Tom, like even though BABA's popping up, the market overall is still pretty stagnant. Like the SPY's not moving up or down. Like it's still stuck in this range. And there's no momentum with that, which I think is very interesting. And I think that tells us that, some of these stocks that out here. So like if I go to the Market Watch tab on Thinkorswim and then visualize, we can see that like some of the stocks that have the largest influence on the market. So that'd be like Microsoft, Apple, Visa, IBM, stocks, or no, JPM, they're not really moving too much. Like Apple, not moving. JPM, it's trying to move, but it's really not moving. Tesla, falling a little bit. Disney, not doing anything. So the major stocks, they're not doing anything. But some of these smaller cap stocks, or some of these stocks that have not as large of an influence on the market, like GM, and Oracle and ExxonMobil, they are moving in a big way. Same thing with BABA and stuff like that. So I think the message right now is to not play some of these bigger stocks and to shift into some of these stocks that have been struggling a little bit more than the large stocks like Apple. And, GM's a good example. Energy's all over the place. Oracle's good. And like I said, some of these China stocks are looking pretty good for a short-term play.
Yeah, they really are. And look at General Motors. I mean, this is getting a really nice pop today, but I agree, that transition is definitely going to be the way to go. And I feel like, especially like these stocks like CRSR and, those like lower price growth stocks are going to be the ones really moving, I think, over the next few months as the overall market maybe just stagnates or maybe just starts to go up very, very slowly. But overall, I mean, there's a lot of stocks with some good moves today, like you mentioned, like with General Motors, like, what a breakout with them today. I can't believe they're up 3%. I know they were up a little while ago too, but man, they broke $58. And some of these stocks are just having awesome days like GM and PLUG. I know those stocks are just really flying today.
Yep. And then even Boeing, even though it's like not exploding today, I think it is really good how it's holding its ground. It struggled a lot over the past couple months, and it's holding its ground, and it's going for that 229 resistance. So I really like this one.
Me too, actually. I really like this setup with Boeing, Mike. And look at this. It's actually right between this really like long-term wedge here, with the blue line being the bottom trend line on the wedge and the red line being the upper trend, of course. But it's actually like right on the brink of breaking out of this. And if we see a nice break to the upside out of this, that would make for an awesome move with Boeing. And looking at it on like the 15-minute chart here, I mean, it's starting to really run up today. And I don't know if today will be the day that this stock finally breaks out or not. But, if we could break up above 230 or something like that, I think that'll finally show us that the breakout's happening. But man, it has a lot of momentum, and I'll definitely have my eyes on Boeing for the next couple of days. And it looks like it's even popping up intraday even more now.
All righty. So, what are some of your favorite setups right now? What are some of the top stocks you're watching?
Yeah, the main ones that I'm really watching right now are some of these stocks like CRSR, of course. I know I mentioned this one probably 10 times today, but it's right at support. It just looks really, really good to me. I really like Boeing right now, too, of course. I know that we've been talking about that one a lot in the SM chat, but, there's a lot of these stocks that are going down today that I've been liking a lot, too, like DraftKings, unfortunately. I've been loving them over the past few days around this $50 support, but they're just having a really bad day today, really breaking down below $49 and just not looking good right now. But, that doesn't mean they can't be good next week. It's just, today they're just not having a good day. Tesla's also down. I was kind of hoping Tesla would have a nice breakout today, up above $800, but it looks like once again, Tesla is getting rejected. So I'll be watching them possibly for a move, or a continued move, I should say, to the downside. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it's to the upside, but unfortunately, that event last night, the shareholder meeting, did not go as well as people wanted to. So I'll really be looking this one to the downside. And then I've also been eyeing up Micron a lot lately. They're actually right on their $70 support right now intraday. And if we could start to see a nice pop back up with them, I think that would be awesome as well. But once again, these chip stocks have just had so many problems lately that I might have to look at them back to the downside.
All right, and then what are you thinking of LVS and WYNN? So I know they were really falling off the board when China was saying bad things about regulations and stuff like that, but they're having a pretty good day. The one thing that worries me a little bit about these ones is that implied volatility is still a little bit high, so options are still a little bit expensive, and it looks like LVS has earnings coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, they do. And who knows, maybe those earnings will actually turn their stock around. But you're right. I mean, they're in some pretty good setups today. They're up 2% right now. And it looks like they're actually running pretty well up above some of these technicals, like the 1,000 SMA that they finally broke above. And they're moving well off that 37 support and everything like that. So it looks like they're moving pretty well in the short term. And if these China stocks start to go back up, and if China just keeps their mouth shut, I think LVS could do amazing. And same thing with Win. I know Win got affected pretty negatively from these China stocks. And it looks like Win might be trying to fill these gaps that they made on their daily chart here over the next couple of weeks. And, there's a lot of green momentum actually coming back into these, Mike. I'm glad you pointed these out. They've honestly been or I should say, I've been forgetting about them a little bit, but I know that they've honestly they haven't been getting the same support that they've been getting over the past 6 months as they were going down. But, I'm glad that you pointed this out because it's honestly a pretty good setup.
All righty. So then we have Brian saying, good morning, earnings kings. What are your thoughts on Palantir and AMC? So to me, they're exact opposites. So I'm not a fan of AMC for the long term, but I am a fan of Palantir for the long term. I think Palantir has a lot of growth potential for the long term, and they are a very disruptive company, while I think AMC does not have of course they can grow, but they're not going to change the world where Palantir is doing crazy things with artificial intelligence. So Palantir, I really like them. AMC, I'm not that much of a fan, but AMC, the biggest problem for it right now is it doesn't have the hype that it had a couple months ago. You look on Wall Street Bets now, they're pumping 5 or 10 different stocks, and a couple months ago it was 1 or 2 stocks, maybe 3 stocks, but they're just spreading their buying power thin, and really it just hurts themselves. So AMC, they need a catalyst. They need some hype behind it for it to pop up. So of course I have it on my watch list, but with the way it's moving right now, it's just slowly fading off.
Yeah, and I will say the intraday setup today doesn't look too bad. It's coming back up, over the past 30 minutes. It's recovering decently, and it might be able to get a nice run if it breaks out above 38.50. But like Mike said, though, it's just really risky right now. And obviously, AMC could do good in the long term, like he said, but there's just so many other stocks out there like Palantir, Zoom, Peloton, just stocks that I feel like are a lot more established. And like Mike said, some of these stocks like Palantir, I mean, like he said, they're kind of like breaking the market, or, what was that term you used, Mike?
Disruptive.
Yeah, they're very disruptive right now. They're really changing like the landscape of stocks and stuff like that. Like, there's not too many artificial intelligence stocks out there, and Palantir is one of those really interesting ones. Same thing with like NIO and ChargePoint, Blink. A lot of these stocks are just in those type of sectors that are very futuristic slash disruptive, like Mike said, and I feel like they can do really good for the long term. But in the end, though, I think that AMC can move well on intraday moves if you can catch quick like scalp trades and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't really like it for swinging.
Gotcha. So I would say that there are a decent amount of AI stocks out there. You got like Tesla, Apple, Microsoft. You could say Adobe. What's interesting is basically any tech stock in some way or another is at least indirectly involved with AI. But Palantir is unique because there's it doesn't have too many real competitors. So I definitely know what you mean, Tom, and they definitely have a lot of potential to grow, and it's good to see Palantir get some of their they're growing, and I'm just excited to see how they grow over the next decade. And then we have Vicky asking for levels on BABA.
Let's go check it out. BABA, I know that they've been moving really crazy today. Let's check it out. I know that they're getting really close to $160, and it looks like, yeah, they're actually really consolidating here at the high of day. So I would really make them break out above 161 to the upside, and it looks like they're actually getting really close to that level. So if you see a nice breakout above that, I would definitely maybe play the breakout there. I think you could get a nice, maybe 1 to 2 point pop there, and it could end up making for a pretty good day trade. But as far as the support goes, it looks like they came down to that high of yesterday, right around 158. So I would use 158 as the support, and I would use 161 as the upper resistance today. Or you could say 160.85 is the upper resistance, but I would just say make it break 161 at that point, because whenever a stock's worth $160 a share, 15 cents isn't really too much of a move.
Exactly. All right, and then she also asked about Roku. So I know this one has been struggling a lot too. This one's not bad for some short puts, but maybe not even it's not even bad for a quick pop back up.
Yeah, it's not. It's actually kind of recovering up like BABA. And, we've seen a lot of stocks this morning kind of fall off at market open, and a lot of them are getting back to those levels that they opened at. And Roku is just above that, and it looks pretty solid, actually. And I think we could see a pretty nice move back up, too. And I might take a move out of the overall market. We might need the SPY to go back green. But looking at Roku on the daily, I mean, I think there's definitely potential for this one to come back up today. It does kind of look like with that red day yesterday, it could go down, but we've seen plenty of setups where there's been one single red day and then tons of green days following that, kind of like back here on the chart, back on May 21st. You can see there was that one small red day and then a huge green day came in right after that. And we could definitely see that happen again today.
Gotcha. So looking at everything, it looks like Boeing is starting to break out. They are now up just under 1% on the day. And I feel like Boeing is unique in the sense that if we do see a successful breakout, it'll be good for a short-term momentum play, but at the same time, it'll be pretty good for a long-term hold because, Boeing, they don't really have too many competitors, and at the same time, they haven't recovered that much. We have certain tech stocks that have exploded up over the past year or two, but Boeing, I know that they have some problems that they have to address, but they have a lot of room to go back up.
Yeah, and a lot of those problems were already addressed. I know that they had a lot of problems with those 737 Maxes that had a lot of those. They had 2 crashes over the past 5 years or something. And I know they had to address that and maybe fix some stuff there. But for the most part, it seems like they're getting things done. And yeah, I think the stock has a lot of potential for the next few months, especially if we can see the airline sector go up too. I think that would be awesome. Or maybe they'll get a nice contract with the U.S. military or something like that. But I think it's pretty good for the long term too. And I love the technicals on it right now. If we see a nice breakout, it'll really be breaking this awesome wedge. And I could see a pretty nice move to the upside once this wedge gets broken. As long as it breaks this to the upside, hopefully it doesn't break this out to the downside. But as of today, if we keep running like this, it looks like a pretty good day.
Good stuff. So, Tom, looking at everything, like what are you watching? Like, I know that we covered Boeing a lot, Baba, GM. Like, what are some of your top stocks for the rest of the day?
For the rest of the day today, I'm really keeping my eyes on some of these bank plays. We're looking at Bank of America getting really close to this almost like triple topping here at like 44.75 or like 44.87 at the high there. I feel like that these stocks have some potential to move. And looking at Bank of America on like the longer term daily chart, if we get a nice breakout up above 45, we'll be at new all-time highs, and or maybe not all-time highs. Maybe we had a higher highs in '08. Yeah, we did in '08, but it's the higher highs over the past like 10 years, I should say. So that's what I meant. And if we get that nice breakout, it'll just be awesome for the banks. And number two, it'll be awesome for the overall market. I think that'll really help push the SPY back up for the rest of the day today. If these banks can start to break out, I know JP Morgan is also right around that high. So if they could break out too, it would be great. And these banks have been loving what Powell's been talking about lately about the rates staying lower. A lot of people had thought that banks might like it if rates rose, but as of right now, JP Morgan is honestly really liking that Powell's like starting to taper the asset purchasing. Apparently they like that news, and apparently they like the news that rates might start to be rising over the next year or so. But as of right now, banks are moving while rates are pretty low, which to me is pretty interesting.
All righty. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We have a lot going on, lots of stocks moving, and thank you guys so much for joining, and we hope you have an amazing rest of your day and a great weekend. Thanks for watching.